Hi there, Ryan and Cindy from Real Talk, Real Truth. Today we're just going to do a little snippet, a real quick one here. Been a lot of things going on in the world. We got a lot of COVID coming back. Florida and Texas are getting hit real bad, and companies are starting to make mask mandates and things like that. So, as Christians, how are we supposed to respond to this? We want to have a good witness out there, right? I mean, that's the main thing we want. Well, what is the proper biblical response? Because you hear a lot of things out there. Well, just don't be afraid. And as Christians, we shouldn't be
hmm
afraid. This is we know when we die, we're going to go to heaven. So we know this is not our final stop. But a lot of people don't, and there are a lot of people out there that are afraid. They're afraid
hmm
that their kids might get sick. There's all this argument of should kids have to wear masks in school and this and that. And so, how should we? What is the biblical response to this situation that we're going through right now here in our world? So, we can find all the answers in the Bible. Now, the Bible doesn't talk about mask mandates
No.
specifically. There's a lot of things the Bible doesn't talk about specifically, but there are principles in the Bible that Jesus taught us during his walk on earth. And so I decided that one came to our mind, a few came to our mind, and so we looked these passages up. And I'm going to start off in Matthew chapter 17, verses 24 through 27. It's titled in my Bible, The Tribute Money. And I'm going to go ahead and read that, and then I'm going to expound on it a little bit. I'm not going to give the whole dissertation for lack of time. I don't want to do that. I'm not here to preach the gospel right now. I'm just here to kind of show what the Bible teaches us and the principles it teaches us. And it says in verse 24, it says, "And when they came to Capernaum, those who collected the two drachma tax came to Peter and said, 'Does your teacher not pay the two drachma tax?' He said, 'Yes.' And when he came to the house, Jesus spoke to him first, saying, 'What do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth collect customs or poll tax? From their sons or from strangers?' When Peter said, 'From strangers,' Jesus said to him, 'Then the sons are exempt. However,' this is key, 'so that we do not offend them, go to the sea and throw in a hook and take the first fish that comes up. And when you open its mouth, you will find a shekel. Take that and give it to them for you and me.'" Wow, man, that's pretty good right there, right? But I really want to focus on what Jesus is trying to do here. There's a lot of things going on here, but there's one thing I want to focus on. Is Jesus says to him, "However, so that we do not offend them." Jesus didn't have to pay that tax. He was God. He was exempt,
hmm
but he did it anyway. Why? Why would Jesus pay this tax when he doesn't have to? Well, he tells you right here, so that he didn't offend them. And this story came to my mind over the last week. So what's he saying here? And just so you don't think it's from me, because I'm not a pastor. I'm just a lay person, just like anybody else out there. And I tend to look this stuff up. So I found some different things. I got some commentaries here, and I'm going to kind of give you the gist, the principle he's trying to teach us here. And in this commentator says in this text we see Jesus refraining from exercising his rights as the Son of God in order to prevent any hindrance to the sharing the good news with people. Jesus always considered how his action or inaction would affect the spreading of God's good news. And from Jesus, we learn that asserting one's rights is not always what's best for the sake of the gospel and for the sake of our brothers and sisters in Christ. Through Jesus' example, we learn how to exercise our freedoms in the in a gospel first manner. Notice Jesus is thinking of everybody right here. How he didn't have to do that. You know what? We live in a free country. There's certain freedoms we have. But just because we're free to do certain things doesn't mean we should do them. We have to think of others around them. And as I said a minute ago, you know what? We're not supposed to be afraid. Remember, we're only here for a minute. We're not, but others are. So what do we do as Christians? Well, Warren Wiersbe, I'm going to read from Warren Wiersbe. He's a conservative commentator. He's passed away some time ago, but he's one of my favorites. So I went to see what he had to say. And I'm going to read a little excerpt from what he said. As Christians, we must never use our freedoms in Christ to hurt or destroy others. Technically, Jesus did not have to pay the tax, but for practical reasons, he paid it. Wow, imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus is teaching us a lesson right here. You know what? You're right. We have the freedom to either get the vaccine or not get the vaccine, right? We have that freedom. But we know this virus is still out there. So if they are asking us to put the mask on for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of preaching the gospel, if when we put that mask on, what we're showing to people who are afraid, because we're not afraid, we're not being arrogant, well, it's my right, it's my freedom. And that's not what the gospel says. That might make you mad, but that's not what Jesus is teaching us here. That's not what we do, because you know what the world looks at us? Boy, they're uncompassionate. Here we're afraid, and look at how uncompassionate, unempathetic they are. Some Christians you are. Yeah, that's how the world's looking at us when we don't do things in a Christ-like manner. So what happens when we do put the mask on? We're glorifying God, because we're showing the people around us, in our communities, in our workplaces, hey, I care about you.
Mm-hmm.
I care about your well-being. You know what? I don't have to wear this mask. I know there's a danger out there. What did Warren Wiersbe say here? I love what he said here. He said, as Christians, we must never use our freedoms in Christ to hurt or destroy others. We know there's a virus out there. We know it's real, and we know it's killing people. We are not supposed to use our freedom to hurt people. You might say, Ron, I disagree with you. You can disagree with me, but I'm just going to give you real talk and real truth right from the Bible. You can't disagree with the Bible. You know, Jesus said, if you love me, you will obey my commandments. You will follow my way.
Yeah.
You know, and Cyndi, you can go ahead. And I would encourage anybody to go read that story. I just gave you a couple commentators. I love to go to different commentators. When something comes to me, I get my own thoughts. And then I go to see, was my thoughts right? Am I biblically right? Am I thinking right? So you'll find that in Matthew 17, verses 24 through 27. I would encourage you to go read it and look at the principles in there. And we got some more here for you, real quick.
Yep. You know, we have heard a lot of talk lately from Christians. Actually, over the past probably year, we've heard a lot of talk from Christians that seem to believe that the Christian attitude lately is meant to stand up for your rights, don't let the government control you, you know, fight for your right to do what you think is fair and fight for your freedoms and so forth. But there's a place for fighting for freedoms. For example, you'd look at the Old Testament. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were instructed by the king to do a sinful act, right? They were told to bow before the idol, and they knew that that was a sin against God. And because they knew that it would have been sin to bow to that idol, they refused. Notice they didn't protest. They didn't yell and scream. They didn't get angry. They simply refused, right? They simply did the right thing. They declined to participate in the sin. And because of that, they were threatened with death. They stood their ground. But they didn't yell at anybody. They didn't get angry. They didn't post nasty memes on Facebook. They simply chose to disobey the law because it would have been sin for them to obey it. It's a little bit different when we're in a situation in modern culture when we are not being asked to sin.
Right.
Some of you may feel that you're being asked to do something you don't want to do, right? And you have the right to feel that way. You don't have to like wearing a mask. I don't enjoy them. They don't feel comfortable. I get stuffy. I get frustrated. We don't have to like it. But nowhere in the Bible do we have permission to rebel against an authority, to rebel against a law simply because we don't like it, or because we feel it is unfair, or because we feel that the government may be overextending. If you feel that way, even if you feel that way, nowhere in the Bible does it give us permission to do that. And in fact, the opposite is true.
And we're not being ordered by the government anyway.
Well, I'm talking about like if there's a mask mandate, I know if your state, or your school or whoever it may be or your employer, whoever it may be, is asking you to wear a mask, then that would be a rule that you should follow. Now, here's what Jesus had to say. I'm reading from Matthew chapter 5, verse 35. Jesus says, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth." Rightfully, they were allowed to exact that punishment, right? "But I say unto you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also." Jesus is teaching that you set aside your rights. "And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well." Now listen carefully to this one. This is a very commonly known known passage here. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Now, if anyone doesn't know the context, the Jews were under Roman oppression. They were under an unfair, illegitimate, they could say, government. They were under a government that should not have been forcing them to do things yet that government was, right? They were under an ungodly government, in fact. The Roman government required Jews to obey. If a soldier happened to be walking by and the soldier happened to see a Jew, that soldier could say to that Jew, hey, carry my bags for a mile. That Jew was required by law to stop whatever he was doing and carry the soldier's bags for 1 mile. That was the law. Now, if I were a Jew living in that time, my thoughts about that law would be that is very unfair. They should not be allowed to make that law. They should not be allowed to make me do that. If this happened in America, we would be protesting. We would be we would be writing letters to Facebook posts and all kinds of things to protest against the unfairness of this law. We would. We Americans would not tolerate this, okay? But Jesus told the Christians, not only do you carry the bags, the mile that you're commanded to carry them, even though it's an unfair law that you don't like, not only do you do it, you do more. Now, why did Jesus say that? Was Jesus trying to force his people into submission and force them to be slaves and to act like sheep and, sheeple or just give up all their rights? No, that's not why Jesus taught this. Jesus taught this because he was teaching the same principle that Ron mentioned before, that the way we reflect Christ, the way we spread the gospel is worth going through a minor inconvenience to obey a law. Okay, they weren't being asked to do a horrible thing. They weren't being asked to do some sinful thing. They were being required to do something that wasn't fair, that they didn't like. But Jesus said, do it and more
It's not like
for your testimony.
Exactly. It's not like somebody saying you got to be the ring bearer at a gay marriage, or
Right.
you've got to go, your daughter has to have an abortion.
Right.
Not asking
There is
them
a place
to
to stand up for
There
what's
is,
right
right.
in those types of contexts.
Exactly.
But refusing to wear a mask, I'm sorry, Christians, but refusing to wear a mask is not showing the world that you're taking a stand for God. I'm sorry. If you refuse to wear a mask at a place where you're required to do so, a school or a business, wherever it may be, if you're required to wear a mask and you refuse, you are not standing up for God. You are standing up for yourself.
Mhm.
And according to Scripture, Christians are not supposed to be doing that. We are supposed to live peaceably with all men. And you may not like the mask. You may not believe the science. I do. But if you don't believe the science, it's okay. You don't have to believe the science. Do it anyway for the sake of your testimony, for the sake of Christ. You don't have to like it. Do it
Does that
anyway.
mean I got to wear 2 masks?
If anyone requires to wear a mask, wear it too.
Anyways, here's the thing. I know it's just tough stuff, but it's tough being a Christian. And Jesus told you it was going to be that way. There's that old parable where Jesus is talking about the builder. You should have thought about the price you were going to, of the cost of following him. Because laying down your life and picking up that cross can be very hard and difficult sometimes, but you'll be blessed for it. Remember, we're only here for a few. We want to have that good testimony. We want to be able to say, hey, I care about you. People are more inclined to come listen to you when they know how much you care, not how much you know. We don't want to look arrogant out there, because that's how we look. That's how we
It
look.
is.
They say, those Christians, hey,
They think they're above the law.
I think, one time Mahatma Gandhi said, he goes, I like your Christ. Your Christ is very good. I like your Christ. But your Christians? Oh, man, they're no good. He was talking about that in Britain back in the day.
I don't like your Christians because I think he said because they are not very much like your Christ.
Yeah,
Something like that.
Something to that regard. So let's have a good testimony and a good witness out there in the world. Maybe God's showing us. He's giving us a chance here. We look at this virus like, oh, it's this bad thing. But you know what? We can glorify Christ in the midst of this tribulation we're going through right now.
Yeah.
Let's not harden our hearts. We know what happened to Pharaoh. Hardened his heart. Look, man, I don't want to see no locusts flowing outside my door. Okay, let's do this and do this right and get through this thing. So God doesn't punish us here. All right.
And if I could add one thought, we talked about this a minute ago. We have to pick our battles. Okay. Someday there may come a time, and maybe for some of you out there already has come a time when you have to take a stand for God, like actually for God, for the Bible, to do what's right when you're being told to do what's wrong. Maybe your employer, maybe the government even is asking you to do something that's against God, and you have to take a stand. Then do it. Please do. Take a stand for God. But if we as Christians are building this reputation among the world that says those Christians fight everything, they fight the masks, they fight the shutdowns, they fight everything. Now when you fight that legitimate battle where you actually are taking a stand for God, do you realize that the world cannot tell the difference? The world thinks, oh, there they go again. Those Christians always fighting everything. Let's not be that way. Let's be the people who live peaceably with all men. As much as lies within you, Paul said, live peaceably with all men. That way, that one time when you do, is it? Okay. That one time when you do truly have to take a stand for God because they're asking you to bow down before an idol, they're asking you to sin. Now when you take that stand, it stands out now. No pun intended. Because now it's the only time you've done that. Right? You've been obeying the laws, you've been a good citizen, and now all of a sudden you're taking a stand. People can see the difference. Stand against sin, don't stand for your own self.
Don't be like the world. Don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Right.
The world does it that way. They're the ones that resist and they fight. And they are not Christians.
Nope.
That's not what Christ told us to do. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully you got something out of that. Go look at those scriptures, study them, meditate on them. Ask God, pray. Remember, it's not us telling you this. Don't believe us. Believe God. Believe the Holy Scriptures. All right. God bless. God bless America. Have a great night.
Join us for Real Talk, Real Truth next Tuesday night at 8 Central, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. All right. Good night.